Everybody's got to live someplace. Everyone needs someplace to be. A habitat's a habit with the creatures of the world. Each has its own community.
Hi, I'm Jim, and today my friends and I are going to explore a habitat where there are lots of interesting and unique life forms. And along the way, we're going to solve a puzzle. It's a puzzle as big as a forest. The answers to the puzzle can be found in the habitat we're going to investigate. It's a small, special sort of habitat. Anybody here know what a habitat is?
I think it's a place where lots of animals live.
I think it's a place where lots of insects live.
And lots of plants live there too.
You're right. A habitat is a place where a number of different plants and animals, we call them organisms, live.
A pond is a habitat.
And so is this forest.
You're right, but the habitat we're going to explore today is smaller than a pond or a forest, and it's pretty common too. In fact, it's so common you might not notice it even if you're standing right next to it, like Abby is.
Oh, really?
You mean this old tree?
It's just an old log.
Yep, that's right. The habitat we're going to visit today is a rotting log, and it's going to help us solve a puzzle as old as the earth, the puzzle of the rotting log. Now, to find the pieces of the puzzle, we'll go a little deeper into the forest. Now, everybody stay on the path and don't pull the leaves off the trees. Remember, that's home for a lot of organisms, and we don't want to disturb it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, kids, what do you see?
Trees, lots of trees. Yeah, live ones and dead ones too.
Right. Now, here's the puzzle. Trees have been living and dying on the earth for millions of years. So, why isn't the earth covered with dead trees?
I don't know.
Me neither.
Well, don't worry. You will know by the time we're finished today. Follow me. Now, here's a fine, healthy-looking tree. Lots of green leaves, strong branches, good bark, and a nice, strong trunk.
Looks healthy, all right.
Sure does.
Now, look at that one over there, though. That's dead. See, no leaves, and it's all dry, and the bark is falling off.
What killed it?
Well, that's a good question. Let's take a closer look. See the openings in its bark? Now, disease or weather might have caused this. Or fire or lightning could damage a tree too, but then it would look black and burned. You see, a tree's bark protects the insides of a tree, sort of the way your skin protects the insides of your body. So when the bark gets big openings in it like this, the tree could be in trouble and could die, the way this one did.
Hey, what are these marks?
Beetle tunnels. Beetles got in through the openings in the bark to eat the wood and maybe other smaller insects. Sometimes they get into a healthy tree and help kill it.
What's this stuff growing on the tree?
That stuff is a type of fungus. We'll talk more about it later. Right now, though, what do you think is going to happen to this old dead tree?
It could get so weak from the insects and fungus that the wind could knock it over.
Or lightning could hit it and burn it down.
Or a man could chop it down.
Right. Any of those things could happen to the tree. And that's the first piece that will help us solve our puzzle. What are some of the things that can make a tree fall down? Wind, disease, lightning, fire, people.
What can make a healthy tree into a dead one like we see? Lightning, wildfire, windstorm, insects, that's decomposing. Part 1.
Okay, gang, let's find a tree that has fallen down. Now, be careful and watch out for poison ivy. Here's a log that's been on the ground for a while. Go ahead, poke around at it. How does it feel?
It's rough. Well, the bark is coming off. The log's really falling apart. Look, I found some eggs.
You did. Good work, son.
So did I.
You certainly
Me
did.
too.
All right.
I found little holes in the wood.
There's some trails in there, too.
And the wood underneath feels really soft and wet.
That's right. This log is beginning to decompose.
What's decompose?
To decompose means to break apart into smaller and smaller pieces. And there are decomposers that help this happen.
Hey, it's full of funguses.
Well, when there's more than one, we call them fungi. And those are some of the decomposers I was talking about.
Some of them look like mushrooms.
Mushrooms and toadstools are types of fungus, but you must never eat mushrooms that you find outdoors. Some of them are poisonous to people. Get all your mushrooms at the store. Well, look here. See how the fungi grow better on the moist parts of the log? And do they ever grow? You're just seeing their outside, but inside are thin, tiny, hair-like strands that grow right into the wood and use the wood for food.
Are fungi plants or animals?
Neither one. They're another kind of organism. And what is an organism?
Anything that's living, I guess.
Right.
Do fungi have mouths?
No, that's not the way fungi eat. When we eat, we put food into our mouths, chew it, swallow it, and digest it. Now, when fungi eat, they just soak up the food and the nutrients in it and decompose it. Now, if we ate the way fungi do, we'd spit on our food and then lie down on it and let it soak into us.
My mom wouldn't like that.
Well, it works fine for fungi. And there are other decomposers at work here, too. They're called bacteria. They're inside the wood, but they're so small that you can't see them.
I thought bacteria were bad. You know, like germs.
Well, some bacteria can make you sick, but most are helpful because they help things decompose. See, organisms such as fungi and bacteria help decay the wood. They use the wood for food and then change it into soil.
This whole habitat is pretty small.
But it's a habitat all the same. A lot of different organisms living together. Now, let's turn the log over and see what other decomposers we can find.
Can I help?
Sure, you can all help, but let's all get on the same side of the log. It'll be a lot easier that way. There we go. Okay, now we'll want to be real careful. A lot of little creatures live here, and we don't want to hurt any of them. If we take the top of the log and roll it toward us, then they'll run the other way, and we can look at them over the log. Okay, ready? Heave, ho.
I see a...
Look at these earthworms. Speaking of important decomposers, now there's a small one there, and then there's two larger ones right there. Oh, there's a wood roach. That's a kind of beetle. And see that? That's a pill bug. It's an important decomposer. Now, these are centipedes. They aren't really decomposers, but they live in the rotting log too. Now, this white creature right here is called a termite. We don't like him in our houses, but this is where he does his best work. Quite a community, isn't it?
Smells funny.
Musty.
Sort of like a wet basement.
That's partly because of the dampness. You see, dampness, or water, attracts decomposers.
What are those white things?
They're insect larvae, baby insects. The adult insect lays her eggs here. Then the young, called larvae, have a food supply all ready for them. They eat the wood.
There sure are a lot of ants.
Ants and other insects tunnel through the log. And that makes it easier for the bacteria and fungi to get in.
Why are they rushing around like that?
You see, when we moved the log back, it put light on their eggs. Now they're all moving to get the eggs to a darker place. Okay, now we've seen a whole crowd of decomposers and insects at work on this rotting log. Who can name the ones we've seen?
Fungi.
Bacteria.
Worms.
Great, and that's the next piece in our puzzle. Who are the decomposers, and what will they do to the rotting log? Decomposers such as fungi, bacteria, and worms break up the log into nutrients.
Once the tree is on the ground, decomposers break it down. Fungi, moisture, bacteria, earthworms, that's decomposing. Part 2.
Look at that lizard. Does it live around here?
That's a newt. They eat the snails and slugs and insects that live in the rotting log. There's a daddy longlegs. It can move pretty fast when it wants to. Rotting logs are a good moist habitat for a lot of different organisms. Now, look at this one. See, this tree is almost completely decomposed.
Some of it's just a pile of dirt.
Exactly. You see, the decomposers don't keep all the nutrients they digest. They leave a lot of them behind, and those leftovers turn into good, rich soil. And that's the third piece of our puzzle. What do decomposers leave behind? Decomposers leave behind a lot of nutrients that turn into good, rich soil.
Decomposers leave behind nutrients of every kind. They make good soil. They make rich soil. soil that's decomposing. Part 3.
Now, I got a tough question for you. What would happen if there weren't any decomposers?
I guess the tree wouldn't rot.
That's right. Things don't just decay by themselves. They need decomposers. That's why when we don't want something to decompose, we stop or get rid of the decomposers. Can you think of any way to keep things from rotting?
My mom puts food in the refrigerator to keep it fresh. Is that the same thing?
Sure is. Cold air stops decomposers from growing for a while. Stops them cold, you might say. That's why you can keep some foods in the refrigerator or freezer for a long time. Remember, this really rotten log started out as a strong, healthy tree a long, long time ago, when your grandfather was a boy. And now, it's mostly a pile of good, rich soil. And look at this. Here's a new little tree growing right up from that soil.
And that soil used to be a dead tree.
You're right. You're very close to solving the puzzle now. That's puzzle piece number 4. What happens in the rich soil of a rotting tree? A new tree and lots of other plants grow in that good, rich soil.
In that soil now we know brand new trees can start to grow. From the old tree comes a new tree that's decomposing. Part 4.
Okay, let's put all the pieces together and see if we can solve the puzzle of the rotting log. Now, the puzzle is,
Why isn't the earth covered with dead trees?
and here are the pieces to solve the puzzle. Number 1, what can cause a tree in the forest to die and fall down? Wind, disease, lightning, fire, people. Number 2, who are the decomposers and what do they do? Decomposers such as fungi, bacteria, and worms break up the log into nutrients. Number 3, what do decomposers leave behind? The decomposers leave a lot of nutrients behind which turn into good, rich soil. Number 4, what can happen in the rich soil of a rotting tree? A new tree and other plants can grow in the